Hello and welcome to another episode of the Agency Leadership Podcast. I'm Chip Griffin.
And I'm Gini Dietrich.
And you got your name right, and you got it in the right timing. I am so proud of you. We'll give you a little golf clap there.
Thank you. Curtsy.
Yes. And for those of you who are watching on video, we've tried to address some of the video issues that we've had with Gini's feed. So let us know if this looks better than it has in past weeks. It does to me. It does to me. It seems like she's a little less pixelated, so hopefully that will be the case when we actually publish. And because of the different way that we're trying this week, she can use her fancy microphone.
Yes, I can.
Filter and everything. So even if you're not watching this on video, if you are listening to this, you hopefully can hear Gini's voice in much more professional style tones or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, something dulcet tones or something. I don't know. But yes, I can use my fancy mic now. So yay.
So, and it's fun to experiment. That's what this technology stuff is all about. We like to try to figure out what the best way is to deliver great content to you every week. But with that, let's get into that great content instead of talking about the behind the scenes stuff that you all probably don't really care about. So today we're going to be talking about some lead generation tactics for your agency, and more specifically, things that you might give away and what are some of the implications of that. And this comes from two different posts that we've seen recently about this. One was about free consultations that an agency was offering, and the other is more about lead magnets and things that you can give away, white papers, ebooks, those kinds of things that might serve as lead generation tools for your agency. And so there's a number of topics to discuss in here. So where would you like to get started with it, Gini?
So I think we should start with the whole idea of providing some sort of free offer. And in this case, the question was, you offer free marketing consultations to prospective clients. And one way you seed your offer is by promoting it within specific targeted groups online, which makes sense. And you include a link to a scheduling app where people can book a meeting time. Great. I've done that. We do that for Spin Sucks stuff. The question then goes on, but a business coach gets a hold of your offer and they publish it in their private coaching group, and their members begin booking free consultations with you. Still kind of great, I think. The challenge, though, from what I can understand, is on your back end, the Zoom link isn't connected properly, so you don't know which link is being shared. You don't know which one to fix without checking all 10. These members aren't necessarily the type of leads that you're looking for. You don't know the coach who has posted the offer in their private coaching group. You spoke to them once in a completely different context when they had a different career. The question is, what do you think? What would you do? I think that's a good jumping off point for this conversation because there's a lot in that one couple of sentences.
There is a tremendous amount in that post, and obviously we don't have all of the details of the situation, but it was something that was posted recently on Facebook by someone we know, and so it's ripe for discussion here. I mean, first of all, I like you, I use free consultations and have in frankly most of my businesses over the last 20 years.
Sure.
I love them as an offer.
Yeah.
You obviously need to think them through, and I think that's one of the things that this particular post flags is you need to think through, who might be coming through that's qualified as well as who's maybe not qualified. And so having some sort of a qualification around an offer, particularly where it's one that takes your time, right? If you're giving away an ebook or something like that,
right.
Let the world have it, right? I mean, but if it's something where it's going to take your time, that's different because that's a very finite resource that you have, and you need to be really much more thoughtful about how you're going to allocate it.
Yeah, I think there's two issues to this question, and one is the technical side of things, which that just needs to be figured out. But the other side of it is there are ways that you can quote unquote pre-qualify people before you get on the phone with them. And one of the ways we do that is through, I can't remember which technology we're using for this. There's technology that you can create a form essentially that allows you to ask questions. So, in your case, Chip, you might say, Are you an agency owner? What size is your business? How many employees do you have? Like, you can ask those qualifying questions. And if they pass, then they get to have the conversation with you. And if they don't, then perhaps there's a free offer that you can give them, an ebook, a white paper, a webinar, something like that, so that they're not like, oh, well, that sucks. I got rejected and I got nothing out of it. You can give them something in return for filling out the form, but you're not going to spend the time talking to somebody who's not qualified for your offer.
Right, yeah, and the tool doesn't matter as much as the process, right?
Right,
There are lots of tools out there that you can use to ask questions, Woohoo, Ninja Forms, WP Forms, all sorts of stuff that you can use. Calendly, the scheduling app, allows you to put questions in. So there's a lot of ways you can gather that information. I think the most important thing is to have the guideline. So even if you don't ask the question, just say it. So for example, I might say free 30-minute consultation for small agency owners, right? And so even if I don't ask the questions, presumably before I actually get on the phone with somebody, I'm going to Google them. And, when I see that they're, a plumber or a carpenter or, an insurance agent,
right.
Then I just say, hey, thanks for reaching out. I really appreciate the interest, but this isn't what I do. And then ideally you have something else, whether it's another a freebie that you have or a referral or some suggestion. I always like to, instead of just saying straight up no to somebody, steer them somewhere.
Me too. Yes.
Even if it's fairly broad, you might even say, hey, the SBA has the SCORE program and they might be able to help you in your area. It could be something as generic as that if you really have nowhere else to turn, because that may be a piece of information that they didn't have. But I think that the first thing is just to be clear about who you're offering it to. And so ideally that's on your website, that's on your form. But even if, let's say you forgot to do that and you didn't do that, it's fine, I think, to reach out to someone after they've requested it and say, look, this isn't really what I do. I know I didn't say it on the form, I didn't say it, on the website, but it's not what I do, and so there's a better fit for you somewhere else.
Yeah, and I think you raise a good point about the insurance agencies, because I made that mistake. I said we do work with agency owners, and we got insurance agents. I was like, not that kind of agent.
I get that regularly, and it's fine. I'm not going to work with them, obviously, because I don't even know their terminology. But at the same time, it's usually pretty clear to them as soon as they get to my site that this is not.
That's not the right fit. Yeah.
Occasionally, they still fill out forms and they get down, and maybe some of the stuff is still useful to them. I've got various resources that, frankly, would be useful to any business.
Sure.
So maybe that's what they're interested in. Who knows?
Yeah.
And it's fine. I'm happy to help people. It's not taking my time.
Right. Yeah. You don't want to spend an hour on Zoom with them, but for sure.
Right. Right. And I think that free consultations like that can be a really good thing in the agency space, because no one's going to hire you without knowing more about you, right? It's because this is a relationship business. This is not someone's buying a tool or a software product or something like that. They're buying you and your team. And so you're going to have these conversations. So to me, there's really no downside into giving away 30 minutes of your time, because if you can answer all their questions in 30 minutes and they don't need anything more from you, they weren't ever going to be a client anyway.
Correct. Yes.
So, because I know some of the agencies that I talk with say, well, why would I give away my time? They should pay for it. Well,
you give it away from a business development standpoint. You don't go talk to prospects without having a meeting with them.
It's nice to say that, but it's completely unrealistic, because nobody's going to, if you just sit there and say, I'm really qualified, I'm not really going to tell you how. We're not going to talk about your situation, how I might fit for it. Who the heck's going to hire you? If they hire you, that's probably a foolish client that you don't want to have anyway.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I will tell you, because we do that. This is how we sell, especially my one-on-one coaching, and some of our online courses as well. That's how we sell it. And our average conversion is about 20%. So for every 10 calls that I have, we get 2 clients out of it. Now, it's a significant amount of money, so it makes the time worthwhile, but you're not going to close everybody. Not everybody's going to be a right fit. But you're right. It's relationship building. They may come back later. We've had situations like that where people have said, gosh, I really would like to work with you. I just can't afford it right now. And they come back a year later because they've saved the money. So there are opportunities. And I know you're a big believer in this in general. Just have the coffee meeting. Okay, it's not that big of a deal.
Right. Well, I mean, as we talked about way back when on one of our earliest episodes about picking your brain type meetings, and to me, look, this is a step above that, because this isn't just someone random. This is someone who is expressing some level of interest in the service that you provide. It's to me, it's an absolute no-brainer, because you're right. You're not going to close 100% of them. You shouldn't expect to close 100% of them. You shouldn't want to close 100% of them, because if you do, then you haven't cast a wide enough net.
Right.
And you could be selling
Right.
more.
Yeah.
Right. So, or you're not priced correctly, or something. But if nothing else, you will get information. You'll start to hear more about more businesses that could be interested in your services. You'll understand what their pain points are, what their budgets are, and all of this goes into the mix to help you build a more compelling offering that will make you more money. So absolutely take these kinds of things. You do have to be careful. You don't want them to eat up all your time.
Right.
So in my case, I let people schedule these directly through Calendly, so I don't have to have any, sort of back and forth. It saves a lot of time. But Calendly does allow you to limit the number of these meetings in a day.
Right.
So I have a limit on the number of those. I mean, it doesn't usually kick in, but occasionally it does. And I make sure that I'm never allocating too large a percentage of my day to these kinds of calls. And that's a smart thing to do, too. Spread them out. If you're giving something away for free and someone's got to wait 2 weeks for it, no big deal, right? I mean, it's
right.
free.
Right. And, I always liken this to, you won't appreciate this analogy, but I always liken it to a really good hairstylist. You wait 6 weeks to see a really good hairstylist. Sorry, Chip.
Wow. I mean, it's the holiday season, Ginny. Do we really have to go there? I mean, really? It's just, that's
You're
very
welcome.
sad.
Merry Christmas.
But yes, you absolutely do. And I mean, I also have clients who say to me, I've got a new client who wants to start tomorrow. I don't have the bandwidth, but I will in 2 weeks. Don't tell them that.
Right.
And if they can't wait 2 weeks, it wasn't going to be a fit anyway. And so,
Right.
you do need to set boundaries at the prospect stage and throughout the relationship to make sure that it's working for both sides. And so that certainly goes for these free consultations. I think the other thing I would like to touch on here is this notion of, someone sees your offer and then they share it with their own list or their own group.
Right. Thank you is what I would say. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, so I get the potential concern if you're getting a flood of people that you have to say no to, right? So
Sure.
On one level, I understand that concern. At the same time, that's a huge opportunity. And so to me, if someone shares my offer and I don't really know them to begin with, or even if I do, I'm going to reach out and try to have a conversation. If it's not someone that I know well, okay, this is a new relationship that I can have. And it's someone who thought highly enough of me to promote my offer to their own audience. Now, any of us who have our own audiences know you don't promote things that you think are bad ideas or there's not value in it, because that reflects on you. So if you're doing that, you're a fool.
Yes.
I'm going to assume that this individual who shared it was not a fool. They saw some value in it, but they perhaps didn't understand well enough the ideal client of this particular agency. So reach out and say, hey, thanks so much for sharing this. I'd love to talk to you more about what it is that we do. And find out, how I can help your audience. And that gives you the opportunity to discuss your ideal client. Now, the other thing this tells me is that in all likelihood, this agency is not doing a good job of framing ideal clients in their marketing messaging, right? Because that coach should have realized that it was not a good fit. Or when people got to the website, they should have realized they were not a good fit. So that means you should also take a look at your own marketing materials and think about, can I phrase things better so that my ideal client knows who I am? I mean, as you and I have talked about, Ginny, I am going through the world's slowest moving rebrand of my business from Agency Leadership Advisors to the Small Agency Growth Alliance. And it's for all sorts of different reasons, and we'll talk about that in the new year. But the small agency start of it, that's a pretty good indication. If you're not a small agency, you're probably not a fit.
Yeah, probably not. Right.
So... so I think that those are things that you want to look at there. But to me, look at any time someone is sharing something that you're doing, that's a win. Even if they're criticizing you, right? If someone just said, I can't believe that so-and-so is doing this, take it as an opportunity. Reach out, strike up a relationship. Maybe there's something to be had there.
Yes. Who was it? Who was the baseball player that said, I don't care. I'm gonna butcher this, but I don't care how many times I get up to plate as long as they know my name when I do. sort of that whole idea. Who was that?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not familiar with that, but I started out in the world of politics, and in politics, we said there was no such thing as bad press as long as they spelled your name correctly. And
I mean, as a communicator, I would disagree with that, but
well, but in politics, so much of it is about name ID, right?
Sure.
And so it's just when someone gets into the voting booth, if they recognize your name, they may not even know a thing about you, but if they recognize your name.
That's fair. Yeah.
In fact, you could argue that's how we ended up with our current president. But anyway, name ID.
Almost past president.
Not yet, but let's not go there, Ginny. Let's not start a feud amongst our listenership and all that kind of thing. So, but so now the other thing is there was also the discussion that took place in the Spin Sucks community not long ago, also about these free offers and what kind of success people had with them. And this was not specifically about consultations. This was more about giveaways of some sort, a variety, whether that's a quiz or an ebook or some sort of resource. And so the one thing that I think that's important to understand with those kinds of things, obviously you don't have the resource constraints, right? So like I said earlier, give them away as much as you can. The trick is to make sure that those are well aligned with your ideal client.
Yes.
Because too often I work with agencies and I see the things that they're giving away. And that's not just downloadable stuff where someone has to give up their name. It's even the content on their blogs and things like that. The material that you're sharing, the resources that you're sharing have to be a fit for your actual buyer.
Right.
And more often than not, what I see is people communicating with their peers. And that's not really what you're – now, maybe if you're looking to recruit or something like that, there's an element for that content, right? But think about it in recruiting terms, not in biz dev terms. If it's biz dev, it has to be the buyer of your service. And that's where I think a lot of these offers fall down. Yeah,
I mean, I made that mistake early on with Spin Sucks, and it turned out to be okay because it allowed us to build a separate business model for the agency. So I have two sides now. But if I had actually thought about it strategically, there's lots of things I would have done differently. But that's one of the things is I would have talked to the buyer instead of the industry, which we didn't do. We still don't do. But now now the buyer is the industry. So.
Right. And I made that same mistake almost 15 years ago when I built the Media Bullseye website for Custom Scoop. And it was a great resource for bringing together communicators, and we had all sorts of great conversation about, what's going on with the early days of social media and those kinds. It was a great community. Yeah. They weren't buyers of the online news monitoring service that we were selling. Right? And frankly, at the time, a lot of the conversation was around a lot of the social tools, and we didn't really cover social that well back then because it was very difficult to cover social in the earliest days. And so it was a complete mismatch. And so we built a community. It wasn't a useful community.
Right.
Right.
Bummer.
So as an agency owner, you need to be thinking the same way. If I'm a travel and tourism agency, the content that I want to put out is something that will speak to the travel and tourism directors who are potentially going to hire me. Right. And so what are they looking for? What is the content that would be useful to them that would help them build the relationship with my firm? And that's different than even perhaps what you're interested in talking about or thinking about as an agency owner.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, so I think there's some good advice here. Definitely offer some sort of free consultation, 100%, but do it, with really targeted, qualified people. Have something that you can give away for free, if it's a lead magnet, ebook, webinar, on-demand webinar, whatever it happens to be, something that you can give away for quote unquote free. And then create the funnel, for lack of a better term, that allows you to qualify people as they come through it. So maybe they come in and they see, maybe they've come from this link from the private coaching group, they come to the website, but instead of being able to schedule a call immediately, there are 3 steps they have to go through first. So think about that. And then it doesn't matter who shares your link, because you've set up a process that allows you to qualify the person when they come to that link.
Yep. And I would add two additional things. So one is view all of these things as an investment. And so think about the amount of time that you're spending creating it or that you're spending doing the consultations as an investment.
Yep.
Understand that not every investment pays off. So you have to be comfortable with the potential risk and the potential reward of what you're doing. So that's one. And the second thing is, anytime that someone says something about you, positive, negative, whatever, use it as an opportunity to further that relationship.
Love that.
And to be honest with you, I've had plenty of times where I have gotten into arguments with people, particularly online. It happens. But it's turned into something because you have a follow-up conversation and you start to find that there's more commonality than you realize, or that there's an opportunity that neither of you realized existed when you were arguing about something that may not even be all that consequential. Right. So always look at those things. At least if they know who you are, that's an opening to a conversation that might take you someplace that you'd rather go.
Absolutely. It's a huge opportunity. I think it's a huge opportunity from a business development standpoint. It's a great opportunity for you to use inbound marketing to drive leads to your website so that you can then qualify them. I'm a big believer. It's something that we do for all of our clients, so you may as well do it for your own agency too, because it works if you do it correctly.
Right. And you just don't know where anything is going to lead. It may not even lead where you think it is, right? I mean, this whole show came out of you and I just having lunch one day in Chicago because I was in town.
Yep.
And we happened to have an opening in both of our schedules that matched up. And I wasn't even thinking about having you as the co-host of this podcast, but we happened to be talking about it. And you said, well,
I was like, I want to do that.
You're already doing 17 podcasts. Why would you want to do another one? And yet now, 2+ years later, here we are.
Yeah.
Happy as clams, right? Right? Just it's all
happy as clams. That's
happy
right.
As clams.
Like an old married couple.
Yes. Great. Just that's the way I want to think of this. Yeah. Great. On that note, that will bring to an end this episode of the Agency Leadership Podcast. I'm old man Chip Griffin.
And I'm Jenny Dietrich.
And it depends. But I don't wear Depends, just to be clear. Not that old yet.
Okay.